Today, we're diving into the illusion of authority and asking, who's really in charge? Now, let me ask you something. What if one of your employees could legally lock your company into a huge deal, a deal you knew nothing about? It sounds a little crazy, right? But it happens, and it's all thanks to this powerful legal idea.
So let's just dive right in with a question that, well, it should make any business owner a little nervous. Can you be on the hook for a contract that you never, ever approved? The answer is yes. A surprising and often very expensive yes. And we're about to break down exactly how.
All right, so the answer to that scary question lies in this legal idea called apparent authority. And get this, it has nothing to do with what's actually written down in a job description or an employment contract. Nope, it's all about perception. It's about how, in business, what things look like can become legally real. Okay, so let's define this thing. Apparent authority is basically when someone appears to have the power to act for a company, even if they were never actually formally given that power. An outsider looks at them and reasonably thinks, yeah, this person can make that deal. The key thing to remember here is that a formal contract, a board meeting, none of that matters. It's all about how things look from the outside. So to really get this, you've got to understand the difference between actual authority and apparent authority. Actual authority is pretty straightforward. It's what an employee is explicitly told they can do. It's internal, it's clear. But apparent authority, that's totally different. It's not about what the company says internally, it's about what a third party reasonably believes that person can do, based entirely on the company's own actions. It's all about that external perception. So, the big question is, when does this illusion become strong enough for a court to say, yup, that's a binding contract? Well, there's a test for that. It's a simple but really powerful two-part test, laid out by a judge named Lord Justice Diplock. And here it is, the two things a court is going to look for. Step one is representation. Did the company, the principal, do something, either with words or just by their actions, to suggest that this person had authority? And that's key. Inaction can count too. Step two is reliance. Did the other party, the third party, actually rely on that impression when they decided to sign the deal? You need both. If you have both, you've got apparent authority. Okay, legal tests can feel a bit abstract, right? So the best way to see how this really works is to look at a classic case that pretty much defined it all. We're going back to 1964 to the case of Freeman and Lockyer. So first, let's meet the cast of characters. You've got the company, that's the principal, called Buckhurst Park Properties. Then you have the agent, one of their directors, who was acting like the managing director, even though he wasn't officially appointed. And finally, you have the third party, an architecture firm called Freeman and Lockyer. So here's what happened. This director, the one acting like the boss, goes and hires the architects to do some work for the company. Later, when it's time to pay the bill, the company's board flat out refuses. Their argument was simple. Hey, we never formally made him managing director. He didn't have the actual authority to make that deal.
And this is the absolute kicker. The court found that the rest of the board knew what he was doing. They knew he was running around acting like the managing director, making deals, and they just let it happen. They did nothing to stop him. And that silence, that inaction, the court said that was a representation. That was the company's conduct. So, because of that, the court's decision was crystal clear. The contract was binding. By letting that director act the way he did, the company itself created the appearance of authority. The architects reasonably relied on that appearance, and boom, Buckhurst Park had to pay up.
The judge in the case really hit the nail on the head with this one quote: "An agent cannot clothe himself with authority." Think about that. It means the director couldn't just wake up one day and say, "I'm in charge now." No, the authority, or at least the illusion of it, had to come from the company. And in this case, it was the company's inaction that clothed him in it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That case is from the 1960s. What does it have to do with me? Well, it turns out this principle is more important today than it has ever been. Let's talk about why this still matters so much. So what's the core lesson here? Well, first, apparent authority is all about protecting innocent third parties who are just trying to do business in good faith. Second, it all comes down to what your company communicates to the outside world. And finally, and maybe most importantly, it means your company is responsible for the impression it creates. You are responsible for the signals you send out. And that brings us right back to today. Think about it. In a world of remote teams, social media profiles, and job titles on LinkedIn, Who really has the authority to speak for your business? The lines have never been blurrier. So the question to leave you with is this: who are you allowing to appear as the voice of your company? Because that appearance, what the world sees, might just be your next legally binding contract.